And today we're going to learn how to measure a new awning skin and some of the considerations when measuring the skin that you've got to think about to ensure that you get it the right size. So when it comes to measuring your awning skin, there's two measurements that we're looking for. There's the length measurement and there's also the width measurement. We'll start with the width measurement because it is the most straightforward one and that is can't be really messed up too easily. So when we're measuring the width, we're simply measuring from the sail track attachment on the Caravan to the first attachment spline on the drum. So we're simply taking our tape measure, we're resting the top of the tape measure on the sail track's throat, and we're just bringing it down and measuring to the first attachment spline. That measurement is your width. Now, of the three main awnings that are made and supplied in Australia, they all have different widths. So it's important to make sure you measure it to ensure you get the correct size made. The next measurement is the length. Now there's a lot more to think about when it comes to length because this particular measurement can be problematic because when awning skins age, they shrink. So people don't necessarily understand that before they measure it. So shrinkage is a key factor to think about. Now, on this particular awning, this is particularly shrunken and I can demonstrate perfectly what I mean. So if we look here at the barrel, this awning originally would have been over here, around about this place here when it was first delivered. It has shrunk up around about 100 millimeters in length. Now, if I was to measure this awning skin from there through to the end, of course, I'm now going to be 100 mil shorter than what it was when it was factory. Now, that's a problem because obviously one, we're getting shorter cover, but two, if there's any annexes or annex kits involved, the sizing of those annex kits may very well need to be in line with the original measurements. So it's very important to ensure that you look at, has the awning shrunk? A good way to check that is to measure the back of the awning or at the sail track side. What installers will do most of the time is when they fit the awning track and the awning skin into that track, they'll use small little grub screws to locate that skin within the track so it doesn't slip. But by putting those screws in through the track and in through the material, it actually locks the material from being able to shrink. So therefore, at the rear of the van, that original size is likely to be as accurate as possible. So when measuring length, always think about measuring at the top of the van, then measure it against the roller to ensure that you're going to be happy with where it all sits. When there's any flap kits involved, the way to measure it, you have to consider two things: where the brackets of the anti-flap kit are and where the holes in the drum are. The worst case scenario is the anti-flap kit was fitted to the awning after the shrinkage had already occurred, meaning instead of the anti-flap kit coming down square off the awning, it will be slightly tapered to suit the shrinkage. Now, of course, we're going to make a new fabric that's square. So as we square that new awning out, if it's been fitted to a tapered hole, then nothing's going to line up properly. So please bear in mind that when measuring when anti-flap kits are involved, you need to consider exactly where those holes are in relation to where the brackets are, measure the lengths out to make sure they're similar and get the size that you need. The rule for measuring a skin length using the anti-flap kit holes is center to center of the holes plus 50 mil. So center to center of the holes plus 50 mil is generally the length you'll need, but then check that against the rear to ensure that it's going to be happy on the brackets. Your options are you measure to the brackets and then drill new holes at the front, or stick with the holes and move your brackets at the top if shrinkage is involved. If it's all been fitted from when the van was brand new, everything will be lining up in square and there won't be any problems. So to ensure that you're getting the correct length measurement using the measurement at the rear of the van simply go two ways. This one here has been fitted with an anti-flap kit, so its bracket is in play. When the bracket's in play, the ideal place to measure it is from 6mm in on the what I call the letterbox of the anti-flap kit. So 6mm in is a start point for the edge of the fabric. Okay? Then we measure through to the same point at the other end, 6mm in off the back of the letterbox. This will ensure that you get the right measurement to suit the anti-flap kits at the bracket end. If there's been shrinkage along the drum of the skin and the holes have been drilled for the anti-flap kit post shrinkage, you're then needing to likely drill new holes for the anti-flap kit. Bear in mind though that the long side wall of the annex kit, if it exists, can be affected by that, and therefore you may need to alter that to suit. If no anti-flap kit's in play, you can simply hook the tape onto the edge of the fabric, run it to the other end of the fabric, and that should be a simple way for you to measure. In conjunction with the width, that's all you need to do. So another thing that's important is we know what type of awning you have. You need to tell us the make of your awning. The reason for that is different awnings have different spline sizes on the roller, different thicknesses. So it's important to note what make of awning you have so we can match these splines up for you. If we get the wrong spline size, that's too fat or too skinny. If it's too fat, it'll be very, very difficult to slide on. If it's too skinny, it can easily pull out of the throat track. So it's important to know exactly what awning you've got so we can match that up correctly. So over the years, people have asked me, Ron, why don't awning skins go all the way along the drum? Why do the manufacturers fall it short? To be honest, I'm not exactly sure why they fall it short. It's something they do. However, when we have a new fabric made, there's the opportunity, if things are able to allow it to happen, to then extend that new skin to the maximum size of the drum, minus about a finger width each end. What you need to consider with that is, as you lengthen it along the drum, while we'll be able to measure it so it sits along the drum, you've also got to make sure that you have sail track available to travel the same distance across the van. Some manufacturers cut their sail tracks off very close to the end of the existing fabric. So if we were trying to then extend that skin, we would run out of sail track on the Caravan to actually house the fabric, which is then going to be floppy and terrible. So if you have, and then this van in particular has sail track running longer, so we would be able to do it on this one. In actual fact, this particular one has an anti-flap kit involved, so we have to actually think about that. That's more of an overriding factor. But if there was no annex kit involved and you had the space to extend, you can. Just check that, make sure on both ends you have sail track available for the skin to take into. If that's the case and you want to maximise the size, all I'll do normally is use 1 finger width wide as my start point and measure to the same distance on the other end, 1 finger width off the other end. That's maximising the size of the drum and giving you maximum cover, and why not? Get as much shade as possible, so feel free to be able to do that if you need to. As I said, if there's any wall kits involved, you may not be able to do that. So here's another example of a skin that's absolutely time for replacement. Actually see here that the shrinkage hasn't occurred too badly with this one because it's still in pretty close proximity to the end cap, and I've checked the other end, it's much the same. So you'll be able to use this edge of the fabric to measure from, just bring it along to the other end. This one in particular is 5510. And again, the second measurement from the sail track on the Caravan straight down to the first attachment spline, and this particular one is 2370. With this particular application of measuring this skin, of course, I've observed this shrinkage here is very minimal, so I'm happy with the fact that this particular skin will be closest to its original, so I can pick up and measure. Then I would still check the back of the skin and measure that distance to ensure it lines up with what this front distance is. If you do have a differential, you work out which way you're going to go. Like I said earlier, the rear of the van is sometimes the best place to measure because of those lock screws that are in the track, stops it from shrinking, so it's generally more accurate at the rear.